So let's start with where are we now, and we can look at the class assessment notes from this week and the IDR conferring to see what are patterns, trends that we're noticing in relation to how kids are using text features to locate and learn information.
Sweet.
Okay.
All right. So I have a celebration for you, actually, to start. So in writing on Monday, after our little lesson, Danica, of all the people in the world, she's still doing research notes. She's a little bit behind, and so she's very targeted with like what heading she needs like notes for.
Yes.
And she needed notes for food, and she was like, "Oh, I'm going to use my armadillo book." I was like, "Great, let's do it." And she was like, I need to know about their food. And she tried to find the table of contents, and there wasn't one. I was like, okay, where else could she go? She's like, well, I could use the index. I was like, yeah, you could. And she couldn't find food. And then we talked about how food is prey, and she found prey. She found the pages, and she used it.
That's exactly what
Connection,
we've been looking for.
Transfer.
Yes.
Especially with her, I was like very excited about that. So.
Yes, that's exciting. Okay, what other patterns have you noticed?
So on Monday, that illustration question was very hard for them. Like surprisingly hard. How did the illustration help you? They knew that it helped them, but they couldn't verbalize how it was helping them.
Yep.
And their answers were always like very roundabout. So they couldn't pinpoint. They're like, yeah, I know it connects, but making that connection of what words in the text match the illustration, or like connecting those.
Yep.
And then I did notice though that most were able to find, like when you asked a question and said, what's your text evidence? They were able to go back and find that sentence in the text that helped them, which was good. And I'm starting to hear more voices speak up, which is exciting.
Yes. Let's get to that contributing in a minute.
Yeah.
Who we might notice that we
need to
give scaffolds to and support. I'll share what I noticed yesterday from the lesson. Okay. Yesterday, that first question, which we'll ask again today,
the title
after titles and headings, to prepare for learning, they could like identify, like when I said, put your finger on another heading, like they could point to it. Okay. But when I asked to prepare for the learning, what do you think you're going to learn about? Then, Ethan pointed to that picture of all those 1,000 cranes and was like, I think it's going to be about like where you can hang cranes. So he used a picture instead, which is fine. James pointed to the map and was like, oh, I think we're going to learn about where origami is. So he used a different text feature.
So they're using text features, but they're not thinking about the heading.
Yes. And I was like, and then Maddie said something about folding. I was like, oh, yes. Can you point to which text feature helped you with that? And she couldn't. She was like, and I was like, the title. You know, it's right there.
Right.
And so we'll just have to keep that in mind when we ask that question again today.
I kind of wondered if the headings weren't going to be tricky. Like what I think we kind of talked about that the last time too, that was going to be something that was going to be tricky for them. So.
Right. So still, like we noticed last week, understanding the information you can gain
from that text feature.
Because even I'll fill you in on Ethan. I conferred with him yesterday, and all these honeys that are kind of stuck in the two. He knew what a table of contents was for. Yep. Knew that it's going to be the page of every topic. And then when I asked him a question like, okay, how are you going to use this as a reader now? That I just know the pages are there. So I was like, then I had to give like an explicit question. Okay, wonder if you wanted to answer the question about how rabbits and hares are different. Which section would you go to? Then he could do that as well. So
with a specific question.
Yes. Wow. How about your conferring notes? What else are we noticing?
Yeah. So when we met with Maddie, that was really interesting. I feel like some of our conversation was a little bit more about like her decoding and how she's only seeing the first part of the word and not like going through. But it was interesting when you asked her what she learned from the caption. She almost seemed to talk about what the main text said. And like briefly mention the caption. So I thought that was interesting. I had that note written down. And I'm glad you met with Ethan, because I had met with him last week and he needed help to locate and name the text features. So it's interesting that now he can do that.
Yes.
But he was able to tell me, but I had to support him like a lot through that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had for a note for him is just to talk about, like, did not talk about the headings and how they helped him, and didn't know what a caption was. So
Okay.
if he's kind of growing in that way, so that's good. And then Jonovan was interesting because, again, he's one of those that can notice a text feature but can't explain how it's helping him. So I would be interested to meet with him again, because that was now 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And so I'd be interested to see if he has grown at all as far as like independently using those text features, because this was kind of more towards the beginning of when we started this. And so, yeah, I'd just be interested to know if he's able to identify what he learned from the text feature, because here he was not.
Okay, I'm just going to jot him down, a kiddo to confer with.
All right.
Would you say that's still a pattern and trend for these honeys that are stuck in the two still?
They can't say, what did I learn from this text feature? They can identify them really well, but like the learned piece, or how does this text feature help me? And some of them are still getting stuck with, this text feature is connected to this text. I'm not going to, like, they're having a hard time transferring that this text feature, although it's here, can also be in a book about a different topic. Okay. And if I read a caption in a different book about a different topic, I'm going to learn something different from the caption.
Okay. So what I'm
mean?
saying is to understand that these are general text features.
That are in lots of different texts and help us in different ways depending on the text, or we learn different things from them. So kind of thinking even like, what is the topic of my book?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like almost going back to like very basic, not text features, but before I read, like getting ready to read, and what is the topic of my book, and how do I prepare my brain for this?
Yes.
And maybe that'll feed into, I don't know.
So, okay, what you're saying is starting with the topic.
And then, building, like, before reading, like that really before reading piece, I feel like is missing for some of them, because then they're getting hung up on, what is the function of this text feature, not what am I learning from this text feature.
So if they always look at the text feature through the lens of
the topic, maybe it'd be easier. I don't know.
Just
kind of reflecting on that.
Yes.
They're just getting so hung up on, like, yes, and like in this book, this text feature does this in this book, but not.
Yep.
It's almost like a blend of like it's too general or it's too specific. It's like they're lost in this weird little world.
So they're getting so stuck on identifying the text feature and its function. And last night with your team, we talked about that, how that's why none of our success criteria says anything about identifying. You know, that I can identify, because we're moving
past
beyond that,
right?
That I can use it as well. Okay. So if we're looking towards this week's formative assessment, it's the day 3 journal.
Yes.
On
Friday.
So I just wanted to revisit those expectations for that journal entry.
Did they last night work out more about it?
We just talked about week 4.
Okay, perfect.
I was curious, is it going to be...
It'll still be those.
Yep. And just like the last journal entry? Very similar, yeah. Well, in the last journal entries, we had it more like formatted. And I think JC and I said to stick with that until next week. Okay. Like kind of release them more next week. Yep. So this journal entry will be a little bit more like guided. So it'll have like the title and the author, they just have to fill it in. Yeah. And then they'll have to answer what is the text about, but they're not putting it in their own sentences yet. Okay. I think we're going to do that the next week, I think we talked about. So we're turning, I thought we said we were going to turn this journal entry into like what we've been doing with the past ones. So this is an opportunity for them to connect to that topic. And then the text feature they noticed and what they learned. Yes, because that's what most of those twos were, is they could tell what what the text feature did, but not what they learned from it. So what opportunities do you have to model this? I'll probably model the whole thing with a book.
but maybe just read like a section of a book.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like not obviously read the full book, but probably read, you know, a part or an article, since we're doing articles. I think we had thought through that actually. It says time for kids article, choose a wild topic.
Woo.
Woo. And then model with an article and then have them do it independently. Yep. Put the model into Seesaw so that they can refer back to it. So that's something that we have built like for as a team, so that when they have the model, they have it in front of them and they can do the paper here with their own book.
Yep. They know what success looks like. When you're doing the think aloud part of modeling, now that I've heard you reflect about, okay, kids need to read through the lens of that topic.
Yeah.
What might you try
I
to
wonder
make
if,
that explicit to kids?
I wonder if like I'll look at the title and just do what I do as a reader and think, okay, what do I already know about this topic? Do I know anything? What do I look at the table of contents? What do I think I might learn about this topic? And just kind of go through those steps with them, but very like nonchalantly and not teacherish, but just to show them that that's what readers do.
Yes,
and then hopefully they kind of catch on to that.
I know that's something that you value, that metacognition.
Yes.
Making them internalize that language as they read. So what do I know? Like you said. And then to really hit hard this text feature part, the learning. One thing you learned from the text feature, what do you think needs to be clarified for kids?
I know. I wonder, do you think if I gave them like a non-model and a model? You know what I mean? Like if I said like, okay, like these are two possible answers I could have. A picture helps me or whatever, and have one that would be an example of like a very like generalized, like a caption tells me what's happening in the picture, and then a very like specific one, and have them identify which one is helping, which one did I actually learn with.
Yes. And you could use an example from last week's journal entry.
Right.
Like
just
an example of
like a very basic one, like I could pull from the kids' own responses.
That they could see this is a 2 and why, but if you want to go for that 3,
this is what you would need to have, and then use that book whatever book I decide to use with this.
I think that could really provide clarity for kids.
I think so too. Like, why was I a 2? Sweet.
Okay. Anything else about where are we now?
I don't think
Or do
so.
you want to move into co-planning?
Co-plan it up.
Okay. Day 3, today. Here we go. Okay. So, learning intention, still the same.
Still the same. I think it's the same as yesterday even, isn't it?
Day 3. Let's look at what success criteria is the same, but then what's changed today.
There is no map today, and there is a timeline today.
And now, like you said, we're back to title and headings.
That'll be, I think we could really, since they learned it yesterday, that'll be something that I really like think about today, is who, even after today, still can't use those, and then that'll have to be like an IDR teaching point, because I don't know that it spirals back after today.
But maybe we could make a small group, possibly, if we notice kids that still need support with
That's
that.
a good idea.
Do you want to go through just like we did last time, just section by section?
Yes.
Talk about who will lead it, and we've been also focusing on, okay, what success criteria does this connect to as well? So, okay, part 1.
I think this is just where you get their brains ready. What information do you expect, but we would hope that they're using the title and headings for that. Remind students and articles, title and heading, da-da-da. So that'll be a big one. That connects to that one.
Okay, I'm reflecting on when I asked it yesterday. I probably wasn't specific, like use the title, use the headings to make a prediction.
So today we could be more specific and say, yesterday you learned about titles and headings and how they can help us make predictions. Today,
to meet that success criteria of using them,
what do you think we're going to learn about today? Or what do you expect to learn about today? Only looking at the titles and headings.
what question could we add here?
I wonder
Go ahead.
if we didn't have them open their book yet. Like, we didn't show them the article because, like, this is kind of overwhelming. And we only wrote the title and the headings on the board and just say, what do you expect to learn today, without any other features available to them, and see what they would come up with. Or is that, like, too wild? Because it's called Jump Rope Then and Now, Coming to America, Jumping Today. Do you think they'd come up with anything? I don't know.
Okay, let's think about what we'd anticipate kids
I know.
to say. Okay, if I read that, Coming to America, what do you expect to learn from that heading?
How Jump Rope came to America. It was in a different country before.
You read it already?
Coming from the 30-year-old. I've taught it 8 times. I know, it's hard, but I just wonder if the other text features, because you had said, like, yesterday they were telling you what they were going to learn because of the other text features.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, they got distracted, or they said, like, oh, I think I'm going to learn da-da-da, and they looked at the pictures more than they thought about the headings and the title. So I wonder if just taking that away, I don't know.
I know how much, like, you and your team value rigor with students and high expectations.
Yep.
So if we do that work for them of sifting out the other
that's
text
true.
features,
That's true. It makes it too easy.
what do you think?
It's true. And it would be, if we left them in, it would be a better indication of who is still using and depending on those other text features versus who's actually listening to what we're asking them to do.
Right.
Yeah, let's leave them.
Leave them, okay. And then maybe just keep connecting it. I know another goal of yours was, like, how can kids self-assess with the success criteria? So
what did you use? Did you use those titles and headings, or did you use another text feature? Which is okay.
yes.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But did you meet that criteria for today? Yeah.
Yes.
That sounds
to
good.
validate, yes, you can use
Yes,
other text features,
absolutely.
but today we're trying to use
Today
the
we're going
title
to try
and
to
headings.
use this. See if you can challenge your brain to use.
Okay, so I'm just going to make a note here to connect back to that success criteria. And whoever's not leading this part could really use the notice and name to capture kids that are using.
Yes, and if they're not using the title and headings, what are the more popular text features? I'm gonna guess it's pictures. But
well,
never
yeah,
know.
for kids, it's
For me too.
appealing. Yep.
Me too.
Look for other features that are used. I think that's such a good point, that it's not wrong to use those features.
Right.
Today,
It's cool.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to use more than just, because some books aren't going to have the picture there to support. So what else can you do?
Okay. And then, look for other text features that are used. Are you comfortable with that part?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want me to do that part?
Yeah. Do you like how we've been just splitting
Yes,
the
half and
steps?
half is so much easier.
Well, there's only 4 steps. For
Uh-oh.
it. So
There's
2 and 2.
really only 3 steps because the IDR response is
The 4th one.
the 4th one.
Okay. So, okay. Since I did this yesterday, do you want to do it today?
Yes.
Kick it
that
off?
sounds good.
Okay. And then,
What if this is a
You tell me.
weird way to split it, but what if I ask what are some of the reasons that jumping rope became popular in America? And then we point out, and then what if you started with how it's organized?
Sure.
I mean, it's a weird split and it's not at a step, but
I hear
it
what you're
seems a little
saying.
bit natural. Like
Yeah.
I'll read it, ask what they learned, refer to the text to support their thinking. So I'm hitting the first 2, S1 and S2.
Are you saying in this question, what are some
Sorry,
reasons?
yeah.
Because then,
Because then they need to go back to support their, determine the important parts
details.
too.
Okay. So I'll still be listening in to
Yes.
kids' important details. Are you going to?
Or are they just naming the cool facts?
Yes. Important versus interesting. This isn't designated as a turn and talk.
I'll make it one.
Make it. Yeah, collaborative classroom. We're turning it into turn and talk.
Sorry. Sorry.
Okay, point out that authors are careful to organize their texts in ways that make sense. I'll actually start here, right?
I think so, yeah.
I'll start explaining
And
that.
then this would go back to that heading section, and now we can think about, because then, so this is just what are some things that you know about America, because I'm only reading the
intro.
Oh, maybe that's a bad place to split it. Because I would only read then the Coming to America. Then as you read, follow along with the first 2 sections. Jump over. Because then you would go and read Jumping Today. So maybe that is a bad place to split it.
Okay. Because are you saying?
Because I'm thinking, like, you ask what are some reasons that it became popular in America. Like, it's a very specific to just that paragraph question, not the whole article. And then the next part, you point out, like, hey, we just read a section. Authors
I see what you're saying.
Have like split articles into sections for reasons, blah, blah, blah. And then how is the information in this section organized? What was the first paragraph about, the second and third? So you're still talking about that same paragraph.
How about you do parts 1 and 2?
Yeah.
And then I can pop in for the third.
Perfect.
And then IDR could give the directions for that too, or we can both do that part.
Because IDR, we're going to have to kind of a little bit wing it because this was supposed to be their journal entry, and since we moved it, we're going to have to figure out what we want them to do.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like their purpose, action, share. Not based on this, but...
We might have time to talk about that today. Okay, so Coming to America, I heard you say we're going to swing back to that first success criteria.
Yep, and determine important ideas, because
Yep.
you're determining the important idea of just the section.
And how it's chronological.
Yes.
Like the dates
Yes.
telling each event.
Yep.
So then when they...
So
then
then
you
when
read
we-
Jumping Today. What did you learn from this section? That would still be our...
That would still be success criteria too, right? Determining the important information. Like, what are the big things that you learned?
So when we're listening for answers from kids, what will be an answer that you expect them to?
Yeah. Well, for sure in this one, you would want to know where it originated for Coming to America, where it originated, and then kind of how it came to America, or like what it came as, because those are the big 2 things, that it came as like fitness or whatever. But then Jumping Today, I don't remember what this one is. Today Jumping. Okay, they're gonna hook right to $750 million. Every single kid is gonna say, "Jump rope for heart rate, $750 million," but that's not really that. I mean, it's important. That's great, but it's not the most important thing. What's important to know is that jump rope has turned into like more than just exercise. It's like people raise money doing it.
Okay, so let's
And
anticipate
it's
that.
competitively, but they're gonna pick that out
Some
right away.
kid's going to say that. So...
I can tell you exactly which kid.
What?
$750 million.
What is the feedback we'll give that student?
Well, I think we would say, well, that is a really cool to know fact.
Yeah.
But why did they raise $750 million? Maybe like point them back to the fact that jump roping raises money for different things, or people are doing it as clubs. Somehow guide them back to, well, what other sentences does that connect to in here that are important to know?
Kind of like they found an interesting
Yeah.
detail, but what's the main topic?
Yeah, what's really important
what's the
to
main
know?
idea?
That's interesting, but what's important to know about that? I think that'll be really hard for them.
Yeah.
So I think that might even take some like modeling, because then somebody else is going to say they set a world record in 204 times in 30 seconds.
Very interesting.
Very
again.
interesting. Connects back to that it's a competition now.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to I think probably model with that first paragraph, and then
Okay.
honestly probably model with the second one too. I think that just is going to take a lot of time. I don't think they're going to get that right away.
And does that connect to our success criteria for the day or the unit?
Right, which is identifying important information. I think especially with like Smarter Balance coming up, they have to really be able to identify important events or important things. And I think that this would be something that this would be a great time to start to opportunity for growth.
Okay. Opportunity to model. All right. So.
And then the other one is
What did you? Okay. So then I'll step in.
Yep. And you talk about the timeline.
Ooh,
Yay.
Timeline.
And you ask questions about it.
What happened? When and where?
And so you'll probably, this would be like, timelines don't help us to locate, they help us to learn, right? What did you learn happened on?
Okay.
In text evidence?
Yep, like referring back to.
Yeah, like going to the timeline and using it. And then somehow I wish there was a way that we could like write, like, the timeline helped me to learn that Gene Barklow holds a jump rope-a-thon in 1978. I don't know. You know what I mean? So that they're not just saying like, oh, it helps us to organize dates. What specifically did I learn from this timeline?
You were on my same brain.
Good.
Right there, because I was just thinking, ooh, when you said learn, this could be another opportunity to model what we've seen kids struggling with.
Right.
To identify. So if I'm leading it, would you want to record it? Like, oh, what I heard you say is I used a
timeline and learned.
And when you're asked what you learned, this is an example of what you'd write. Something from the text. Okay, China, model a response.
I'll just use one of these little whiteboards and like quick jot it down and hold it up.
And even like you are going to be writing a journal entry later this weekend.
Yep.
This is
an example
that you
of
could write.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay, so then we'd move into IDR. Since this is, we're kind of modifying this lesson.
Yes.
The way I'll wrap it up is by adding timeline to the text feature chart.
Yep.
Do you want to do any sort of social emotional check-in as
we've been really focusing on like contributing. So like, give me a thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, or thumbs down. How do you feel like you contributed with your partner today?
Just a quick
check. You know what I mean? Not like, because I feel like this lesson's going to take a bit of time.
So something quick.
And then I can just kind of jot down as many kids as I see, like a check, an arrow up, an arrow down, a side, or whatever. Whatever mark.
So then IDR, the purpose, action, share.
Did you guys use the coin books yesterday?
We did.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm wondering if they're running out of coin books.
Okay, do you want to talk about coin books?
We might just need more of them.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
You mean to explain what coin books are?
Yeah, well, we kind of had a conversation because
it's our own little
I haven't even had a chance to talk to you yet. After we debriefed, Abby, Linda, and myself, and that article I shared with you.
Yes.
Tim Shanahan, I know Andy's a big fan. It was an article about kids reading text at
an instructional
level and how they can stretch themselves to read grade level text. So, Abby Doss's new information she was sharing with me, new learning for me.
Yeah.
Kids who are out of sets 1 through 5 have the skills to decode
any words that they
And so that leveled text piece, how we have read it as handing kids books.
Like guided choice.
Yes. But what would be possibilities to let kids choose their own?
Love it. Let's do it.
Okay, she's just on board. That was easy.
It's easy, yeah.
Okay, so how are we going to
that.
restructure it today then to...
Yeah, they should all have a nonfiction book in their book box.
Okay.
That they picked out from the library.
Okay.
So, and if they don't, then I've got a whole bunch of them over there. So.
What about the text in the baskets there too? How they have been told to go
pick a basket.
You can free choice today.
Free choice basket day.
I know you've done the weights lesson.
Yes, and I think the only thing we're gonna have to watch for, because I know some kids are gonna try to pull from like the lowest basket.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like they're gonna go for the easiest one to get this work done so that they can go and whatever. So we'll really have to be more cognizant about people choosing too easy of books, too easy leveled books. I think.
Yes.
You know, because those don't even have like very good text features. We've found that that's been really hard. So maybe I just pull basket number 1.
Yeah, get it out of there.
Yeah. And just hide it and say,
Mhm.
like, Wyatt and Oliver.
Yeah.
If you want, you can still choose this
Right.
basket, because that is kind of instructional for them, too.
And because all the other books, maybe to be mindful about the ones that they can actually practice the skill with that have more
Exactly.
text features in them as well.
Yeah, like, pull out the... Yeah, we'll just have to look through them.
The ones that have just labels.
Yeah.
Yeah, and them.
Which is a lot of them.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, or they can pick from their book box.
Yep. Okay. So then the purpose, action, share, we've had the same this week. What do you
I
think?
kind of
about
like
that?
it.
I know.
It's kind of what
Yeah.
they need to work on. And it'll be nice to look back and say, okay, on Monday you were just saying what a caption does, but now you're saying what a caption learned. Like, that's really exciting to be able to see.
The growth, because they're tracking it. If you
Right.
they have their like little
I don't know where they're...
readers' notebooks.
where it's
They
at.
feel
It's
like
over
little
there.
reading detectives. They're just like these little cute
They're
books
tiny,
where
yeah.
they record their action in that book.
And it's always just quick. It
Yep.
doesn't take them very long.
Yep, doesn't take away from their reading. So we already talked about Jonathan, to confer with him. You want to see if he can go beyond just identifying.
Yes.
Are there any other kiddos that we for sure want to check in with today?
Esmeralda, I think, needs another check-in.
Okay.
We checked in with her last week, but she's still so... She dances around everything.
Yep.
She'll be like, oh, what's it call it? And she'll sit there for 5 minutes and do that. And it's like, okay, let's zone in and maybe a more specific conference on that one. And then your Lynn is so new to us that I feel like I'd be really interested to see like what she can do now that she's more comfortable in the classroom.
Yeah. She was so sweet yesterday. She's like, what books do I read? And I was like, oh, sweetie,
Sorry.
get me my book box. And so then I kind of saw what she had.
Yeah.
And she had books already
Yeah,
in there. So
good.
she just...
Good.
Yeah.
So I'll do your Lynn and Jonathan. Maybe if you want to do Esmeralda and John.
Okay.
Because he's been one that has just said what the text feature does, and he does it a lot. And he sounds like he's always very confident with his answer, and then I'm like so excited about it, and I'm like, okay, we got some work to do with that. But I mean,
To get him
confidence,
to
man.
that
Yes,
learning part.
that
like
learning
he has correct
part.
identification, but...
And he'll tell you exactly what a text feature does, but he can't tell you what he learned from. Like, it's really hard for him to connect the learning to the text feature.
Anybody else on this list?
I think we're only going to get through that many.
I
I think only 2. Maybe. We could probably try for, if time allows.
Is there any way we can maximize our time? Like, could I pull 2 or 3 kids that have the same
Oh, good idea.
goal?
Yeah. Bria, John, or James and John would be an interesting pair to match because James has the same kind of thought process as John does, where he's very confident in it, but he like just barely misses the mark on what is the learning. And then who could I pull with your Lynn? I'd actually pull your Lynn and Oliver maybe, even though Oliver gets I shouldn't say Oliver gets met with a lot. He doesn't because he's with ELO, but I'm gonna pull your Lynn and Oliver.
Okay.
Because they're both at that level where it's like they just need a little bit more structure and like those sentence starters to give them during that IDR conference.
That support.
And then
Esmeralda.
and Jonathan hold together.
Yes.
And then I'm trying to think.
How about Ayana?
I was just looking at her name. She's one of those 2 that like barely misses the
know.
mark on things. Like it's like
That's what I'm thinking about. The kids that we can just like push a
I
little
know.
bit.
What about Ayana and Maddie?
Okay. Yeah.
They seem like they're kind of in the same, like, gosh, you're so close, but sometimes I'm like, oh, how did you miss? Like, I thought you were there. You're not yet.
Okay, so if we could get to these 8 kids today.
That would be great. Little dual conferences.
Okay. Let's just summarize our actions going forward.
Yep.
So, if we're thinking about the things we want to reinforce today,
Yes. I'm losing papers here.
I want to come back to connecting to the topic. I heard you say that at the
Yes.
beginning, like keep pushing that. What does this help us learn more about the topic? Always looking through that lens.
Yes.
What else have we, if we were to summarize today?
I think it's just the same thing that we've been pushing so much is like learning from, what did you learn from the text feature? I think the locate text features are those that they like, those are easy for them.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah. But also then thinking about the table of contents conversation with Ethan though, because he can locate with it, but can he use it to get ready for learning?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like some of those text features are like getting me ready to learn. And I feel, well, table of contents is mostly what I'm like thinking of right now in books during IDR. So I think that what did I learn and how can I get my brain ready to learn about this topic?
Yep, ready to learn. And I'm thinking about how the standard says locate information efficiently. So if you were asked a question about this text,
Can you go?
yes, like Danica did.
Yes, like she
Yeah.
did. I know, I was actually thinking about this. I was thinking about Danica, first of all. And then I was like, oh, next week they should be done with their drafts and they're starting their informational projects and they have to add in text features and they have to create text features.
Yes.
So I was like, Amanda should come in for that.
Yes, what a perfect way to apply.
And it's at higher level, like what can I teach using this text feature?
So writing next week.
I think, I mean, this is all very dependent on the work effort of my
Yes,
children,
yes.
but I think next week they'll be ready to
Great.
talk about what text features are you going to add and why are you adding them? Because before we've just,
worked out perfect.
it did, yeah. But I just feel like having you in there, we could just constant, because it is reading and writing are just that constant connection.
'Cause we have
But this
that
one's like
language from
very, like, look at our reading text features. Which ones do you think would add for your reader?
Yes. And how would your reader
Your reader use it, right?
locate or learn?
Mm-hmm.
All right.